Hello and welcome back to Miss Moeller's Photoshop lessons. This is the first project in the class, and this project is called Graphically Me. This part of Graphically Me is the abstract part. So what we're doing right now is we're going to be creating an abstract work of art, and you will be uploading your abstract work of art to Zazzle.com and screenshotting an example of how your artwork would look printed on a product. And then afterwards, you're going to create a name tag that you will put on top of your artwork and save for a later project. So here are the dimensions of your project in Photoshop. What you're going to do is you're going to go to File, New. So again, that's File, New. And it needs to be US paper size, so under where it says preset, set that to US paper. The reason we need to be set to US paper is because we're going to use this for a later project that needs to be set to this size. So for now, set it to US paper, which is width 8.5 inches, height 11 inches. Resolution should be 300. We want this to be high resolution, so again, resolution is 300. Color mode, for this one we want it to be RGB. So we're going to want to use a filter on it later, so that's RGB. And lastly, background contents should be set to white. Background contents, white. So when you're done, click OK. Now, what I'm going to be showing you is first of all, how to create your custom brush so that you can use this in your project. So the rest of this will be up to you, but first what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a custom brush out of the picture you've created. So first, let me go ahead and go back to my artwork over here. And this is Zazzle.com. I'm going to actually go from Zazzle.com to MissMoeller.com. So go ahead and go to MissMoeller.com. Again, that is MissMoeller.com. Once you're at MissMoeller.com, go ahead and click on Gallery. So go ahead and click on Gallery. Okay. So once the gallery section loads, I want you to click on Digital Imaging. So the first couple of projects we're going to do will be located under the Digital Imaging category. So go ahead and click on Digital Imaging. And once you click on Digital Imaging, you're going to see a folder called My Photoshop Materials. Materials might be cut off, but it's My Photoshop Materials right down here. Click on that. My Photoshop Materials. Okay. Ignore the period numbers. These are from older periods. Go ahead and click on Photoshop Materials. So click on Photoshop Materials now, which is right over here. Okay. So just to reiterate, once you get to the gallery section, you're going to click on Digital Imaging, My Photoshop Materials, Photoshop Materials. Again, that's go to the gallery, go to Digital Imaging, My Photoshop Materials, Photoshop Materials. Inside this folder, you're going to see your period numbers. So go ahead and find your period number. In this case, I'll just pretend. I'll go ahead and go to period 4, let's just say. So I'll click on period 4. Again, you're going to go to whatever period you're in. Now, inside these folders, what you're going to see is you're going to see all the artwork you created during this period. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a custom brush. Now, once again, as I said before during the demonstration, the brush needs to be in black and white. So you should have used black paint to create your brush. So let's find an image that we can use to turn into a brush. Okay. Let's see, what would be a good brush to use? Again, it doesn't matter, just make sure you try to find, if you can remember the brush that you used. I'll just use this one, this will be fine. Alright, so, waiting for this to load. When you find your image, go ahead and click on it. Give it a second to load, there it is. Alright, so I'm going to click on this again. You click on the image again, and a larger version will appear. Okay. After your image loads, which may take a while because they are large, high quality images, what you're going to do is you're going to click and just drag your image like this. Click and drag it to your desktop, be on the desktop back here. And when you do that, it should land on your desktop. The other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to also want to grab your texture. Again, the texture was the things like grass or leaves or fur or a group of feathers or crumpled paper, whatever you took a picture of at that second table. You're going to find that picture, drag that to your desktop or to your folder, your flash drive, and Third, you're going to go ahead and find your overlay. Your overlay was your colorful image. So the one that you painted or drew with markers in color, that one is the called your overlay. The image of you with your green shirt and the product shot, which was the product you put in a box to take a picture of, those two pictures we're going to use later. So for now, you're only going to focus on 3 pictures. Your brush, which is black and white, your overlay, which is in color, and lastly, your texture, which is taken at the other table. So I'll go ahead and show you the next step now. Okay, so after you get your brush, your black and white brush, your colored overlay, and your texture, you're going to go ahead and open up all of them in Photoshop, just like this. So here's an example of what a texture might look like. In this case, I just took a picture of moss. This is an example of what an overlay might look like, something in color, and this is an example of what a brush might look like, something in black and white. Okay? So the first one to start with is I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make your texture. So let's actually start with this. Now, for your image you're going to be creating for this project, you will need to have one texture in the image. You can use the texture to fill just a little part of the image, or you can use the texture for the entire background of the image. Either way, it works the same way. Here's how you're going to use your texture. First, we need to select out the texture we're going to use, which in this case is going to be the moss. So let's go ahead and get our marquee tool. We need our texture to be square. So let's go ahead and click on our marquee tool, which is again the rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to go ahead and just click and drag a section in the center here. Something, let's try kind of like this. Alright, good. So now I have a square shape. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy that by going Command-C on your keyboard. It may be Windows-C. So try Command-C. Now I'm going to go to File, New. File, New. Click OK. It doesn't matter what this is. Just click OK. Actually, I'm going to take that back. It might matter a little bit. Let me just click New. Actually, I'm sorry. Go File, New. Where it says Resolution, change that to 300. So after you go File, New, make sure the resolution is 300, and then go ahead and paste it. Command V, V like Victor. On your keyboard, again, it may be Window V. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to turn this into a texture. Now, you'll notice that most textures in Photoshop are actually, or most patterns I should say, are actually going to be black and white. Now, there's a reason for this. When you use a texture in Photoshop, typically you want the texture to be black and white so you can apply other colors to it. So for example, if I was painting something like a dress of a woman, if I had like a green texture like this and I wanted to paint her dress blue, let's just say, the color blue and the color green would intermix. So typically textures like this, or patterns, are typically black and white, so that way you can apply your own colors to it and the color that the texture is won't interfere, because if something's black and white, the only thing it has is shades and highlights. Dark parts and light parts. So it has lightness and darkness but no color, and you can add the colors yourself later, which is exactly what we're going to do. So first thing we have to do is we have to turn this into black and white. So let's go ahead and go to Image Adjustments up here. Image Adjustments, and there's actually a section here that says black and white. So again, that's Image Adjustments, black and white. Now this will pop up, just click OK. There you go. Now I have a texture, a black and white texture. Okay. Now you can always lighten your texture if you wanted to. I think this will be fine for now. But if you wanted to lighten your texture, let me show you how to do it. You go to Image Adjustments. Again, that's Image Adjustments, and you can go to where it says Brightness Contrast. Brightness Contrast. Click on that. And I can go ahead and brighten this up a little bit if I wanted to. Looks pretty good. Okay. And then just click OK. All right. Now the last thing you want to do is we're going to save this as a custom pattern. So let's go to Edit, Edit, Define Pattern. Again, that's Edit, Define Pattern. Click on that. Now you can name your pattern. In this case, I'll go ahead and call it Moss. There we go. So one more time, that's Edit, Define Pattern. Edit, Define Pattern, and then you name it. Okay, now that this is done, go ahead and close out of this section. Don't save. All right. Now I'm going to go back to my canvas. Now here's the cool thing about this. There's different ways that I can apply a pattern to this. One way is to fill something. So for example, I could, if I wanted to get my lasso tool, for example, and I keep in mind, in your artwork, you do have to fill a selection. You can decide what selection that's going to be. It could be a selection made with the marquee tool, with the lassos, or with the magic wands. It's up to you. Any way you want to make a selection is fine. You're just going to fill it with something. You can fill it with a gradient, you can fill it with a color, or you can fill it with a pattern. So here's one option. You go to Edit, Fill, Edit, Fill. And if I do that, you notice that it goes to Contents, Use Pattern. So I can go to Contents, Use Pattern. Contents, Use Pattern. And then I can click a custom pattern. See where it says custom pattern? Click on that. And now look what's here. See the bottom right corner? That little thing down there, that's my moss. And my custom pattern. Click on that, click OK. And look what happens. It fills with the moss texture. Now you will notice it has these lines that kind of tile in the center. There is a way to fix this, however, it's a bit more of a complicated move, so I'm going to show you how to make something it's called a repeating pattern. It's basically where the pattern doesn't have these lines. I will show you how to make a repeating pattern later, okay? But let me go and show you a couple of options. Now let's say I wanted to shrink this, okay? I wanted to shrink this image. Or I wanted to shrink this tile or something, or make it bigger, whatever I want to do with it. Here's the option, okay? Let's say instead of filling it with a pattern, I went ahead and filled it with a color or something like that, okay? So to fill with a color, I can go to Edit, Fill, and instead of Use Pattern, I could use foreground color or background color. I'll just use background color because it's black right now. Click OK. Now it just fills the background color, right? Now, watch this. Watch this for a second, okay? Here's my layers panel right over here. So look at your layers panel. If I were to make a new layer, so if I were to make a new layer, I click New Layer. I have a blank layer here. I go to Edit, Fill with my background color. Now I have just this black shape right over here. You see this black shape in my layers panel? Now watch what I can do to this. I can add an effect or a layer style to this. So go to, see where it says Effects? Effects for Effects down here, this little button, it's FX for Effects. If you roll over it says Add a Layer Style. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to go ahead and click on Blending Options. And this box, the Layer Style panel pops up, or the Layer Style panel pops up. And you see down here on the left hand side it says Pattern Overlay right above the bottom where it says Stroke. Pattern Overlay. Click on the Name Pattern Overlay. The Name Pattern Overlay. Now you see this is another way to fill a pattern. However, it's different. There's two ways to fill something with a pattern. One way is by going to Edit Fill up here, which is in the menu, and the other way is by going to Layer Style, which is in the Layers panel here, the Effects button. Now this way gives you more options. Let me show you how. If I click on the pattern right down here, see here, click on the pattern, I can get my custom pattern here just like before, right? However, here's the difference. You see where it says Scale? It says Scale right here, 100%. I can reduce the scale, something like this, or I can increase the scale. It's just something like this, you see? So the nice thing about this is it does give me more options. So this is a nice thing to do. All right, so I can tile it really tiny, or I can tile it pretty large like this, okay? And that's one option. Another nice thing about this is when I click OK, you see how the little eyeballs for effects are here right underneath my layer? The nice thing about this is I can always go back, double click on it, and I can always go back and change it anytime. So that's the nice thing about the layer styles. I can always go back and change them anytime. Now, let me show you the third and final way to do this. The third and final way to do this. Let me delete this for a second, okay? I'm going to go ahead and trash this layer that I just made. And actually, yeah, I'm going to trash this one. I'm going to make a new one. Okay. So let me show you the third and final way to fill something with like a pattern. Here's the other thing you do. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to, what would be the easiest way to do this? Okay. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to create a new layer, again, just like this, and I'm going to fill it, just like I did before. Edit, Fill with a color, background color. Edit, Fill, background color. So it's the same thing here. See how I have this black shape? So I just made a random shape that I filled with a color using my selection tool. So on layer 2 right here, I have this black shape. Here's another option that's actually kind of fun. First, I'm going to deselect. So I'm going to do Command D to deselect, get rid of my selection, or go to Select, Deselect. select, deselect. And now what I'm going to do is after I, let me see what would be the easiest. I'm going to go get my pattern. I can copy paste my pattern here. So you'd have to actually copy paste your pattern to this layer. Let me go ahead and do that really quickly. Where am I? Let's see. Actually, yeah, here's the option. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I thought I copied it when it was black and white, but I didn't. So it has to be copied black and white like this. So let me go ahead and do this one more time. I'm going to go to image adjustments, black and white, image adjustments, black and white. There it is. I can always make it lighter. Image adjustments, brightness. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now that that's done, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to Command A. Command A. Again, that selects all. Command A. Or you can go to Select All from up here. Then I'm going to copy it by going Command C. Command C. Now when I go back here, I'm just going to go ahead and paste it. So first I copied, basically I just copied my black and white texture from this. And then I went Command V and pasted it. Now I'm going to make it bigger. See, it's kind of little, so I'm going to make it bigger by going Command T. Command T opens up the transform box. Command T, that's going to be Window T in your keyboard. And I'm going to make this bigger. So I'm just click and drag, make this bigger. Now just a note, here's a tip. When you're making something bigger, hold down Shift on your keyboard so it doesn't distort. Distorting means it'll do something like this. You don't want to do that. You want it to scale proportionally, right? So hold down Shift. After you Command T, hold down Shift and then make it bigger. And then as you can see, it scales proportionally. Now here's the cool thing about this. You see how I have this texture on top and this texture on the bottom? Just like that, you see? Now the cool thing about this is, watch this. If I have the texture on top of the shape, in my layers panel, I'm going to hold down Option on my keyboard. On your keyboard, it may be the window button. So again, hold down Option, and you're going to take your cursor is your mouse, roll your mouse, your cursor, between the two layers, but don't click. I repeat, don't click, just roll it between, just kind of move it between, and then don't click anything. As you roll it between these two layers, hold down Option. Now you'll notice on your keyboard, on your screen, the little hand that's there will turn into these two little circles. Now what that is the clipping symbol. So I repeat, the word you're looking for is clipping. What I could do is I hold down Option, and then once I hold down Option, and I'm between these two layers, I'm going to click once. So let me show you that one more time. I have these two layers, like this, one on top and one below. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Option, roll my cursor between the two, and then once I roll my cursor between the two, I'm going to click one time, just once, click. Alright, now look what happened. It automatically filled that shape. Now you'll notice in my layers panel I have a little tiny arrow now that appears on one side of where my texture is, and it's pointing at the layer below it. Now what that means is this is it's clipped to the layer below it. That's what that little arrow means. Means that it's going to fill whatever's below that, or it only affects whatever's below that. Okay, so basically that's what clipping is. Clipping a layer to another layer means that the properties of one layer, meaning the effects of one layer, affect the layer below it. Okay, so the effects of one layer affect the layer below it. That's what clipping is, all right? And that's another option. Now here's the cool thing about this. Watch what happens. If I get my move tool, look at this. I can move this around. Whee, whee. See how cool that is? It's like it's inside, like a keyhole, like a window. So that's another nice thing about it, okay? Now, that's how you can work with textures, with filling shapes, filling selections with a texture, if you choose to. Now again, I repeat, you have to use a texture somewhere in your image. You can choose to use it to fill a selection, or you can fill a selection with something else. So if you want to, you can fill a selection with just a color or a gradient. It's up to you. But you still have to find some way to use your texture somewhere. So here's the other option. Here's your other option. I'm going to leave all this. Okay. Now your other option is to just go ahead and just paste your texture in the center here. Do Command T, and then just make it bigger. And again, you want to hold down Shift as you do this so it does not distort, so it stays proportional. I repeat, if you hold down Shift when you scale it, meaning when you make it bigger, So if you hold down shift, when you make it bigger, it'll scale proportionally. It means it'll make it bigger proportionally. There you go. And just fill it. Now just a note, once you make your texture, don't just automatically start painting on this. This is really tiny, okay? This is my old one, the one that I cut out from here. So I copied and pasted this here. Don't just start making your artwork on here. Make sure you always make your artwork on the original file. So you need to bring this over. So there's two steps. You need to bring your texture, which is like your moss, into a separate file to make it black and white, and then copy paste that black and white version into your original file. Otherwise, it's not going to be the right sizing. You see, if I go to image, image size, you see right now it's only 300 pixels, which is not at all what, it's like 4 inches. It's not at all what I want. So don't make your artwork on this, or it's going to get messed up. You always want to copy and paste it and bring it to your original file. All right, so now I'm done with my texture. Now, let me show you how to use an overlay. Okay. Second thing, overlay. Here's my overlay now. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to start doing the same thing. I'm going to get my rectangular marquee tool. This is going to go faster, so bear with me. Rectangular marquee tool, I'm going to go ahead and just click and drag, and I'm going to get a selection. There we go. Of this. Then I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to go Command C. Now I don't know if she wants this color in the background. Let's just say she does. I'm going to copy it. Command C to copy it. And then this one is a lot easier. I can just go ahead and immediately paste it onto my original file, which is this one. Command V like Victor to paste. Command V like Victor to paste. Okay. Now I have my overlay. Here's what an overlay does. To see how an overlay works, you first need to scale this so that it covers up this background. So to do that, go ahead and do Command T again. Command T on your keyboard, which is also, it may be Window T. It opens up the transform box. So again, that's Command T. I can now hold down Shift and scale it. You'll notice that part of it will go outside the page. That is okay. It'll go outside the page. That is fine. Just like this. Okay. And when you're done, click Enter or Return on your keyboard, and you're done. Okay. Now, here's what I have right now. If you can see my layers panel over here, I have my overlay on top of my texture. Overlay on top of my texture. Now here's what you're going to do. You're going to see where it says normal in the layers panel? Do you see where it says normal in the layers panel? Go ahead and click on the word normal. Click on the word normal, and then find where it says overlay. Find where it says overlay. And you set it to overlay. Now look what happens. You see what it did? Okay, so let me show you that one more time. Do you see how I have blue, green, and like beige? Once I set it from normal to overlay, look at that, it's blue, green, and beige. But it added these colors to my texture below it, see? And that's how an overlay works. And the nice thing about overlays is they give it a little bit more realism. As far as instead of painting this in Photoshop, you could paint this in Photoshop and do an overlay in Photoshop if you wanted to, but I like the realistic paint. I think it's kind of nice. Okay. Now you could, if you want to, you can set this to multiple things. You can set it to multiply. You can try out, these things here are all called blending modes. So I repeat, wherever it says normal, you'll see this normal thing here. You'll also see it on certain tools, like if I click on the paintbrush, it'll say mode normal up here. These things are called blending modes. I'm not going to teach you what blending modes are yet. I repeat, I'm not going to teach you what they are yet. Or what they do, but you are welcome to play around with them. So I repeat, you're welcome to play around with them when you're making your abstract art. So I can go ahead and try darken. I can try multiply. I can try color burn. I can try linear. I can try darker color. I can try lighten. I can try, well, that's kind of cool actually. I can try screen. I can try linear dodge, lighter color. Overlay. Overlay is the more traditional one because it adds overlay basically takes the color from this one and applies it to the black and white image below. So it takes the darkness and highlights of the black and white image, the dark and the light, and use the shadows and the highlights, and it applies them to these colors. Hard light, vivid light, linear light, pin light, hard mix, difference, exclusion, hue, saturation. These ones won't do really much, and luminosity. All right, now Let's find one. I'm going to go ahead and stick with exclusion. Let's just do exclusion. You can do whatever you want to for your image. This, you just have to just see how it works. Is all you have to do. And again, you're going to use your own images. You don't have to use the images I'm using. You're going to do your own thing. Okay, now I need to specify. You do not have to use an overlay for your final artwork. I'm just showing you an option. So I repeat. You do have to use a texture, and you do have to use a custom brush. So you do have to use a custom texture that you've made, and you do have to use a custom brush. You do not have to use an overlay, but you can if you want to, because they are kind of fun. So you can do something like this, okay? Now, just to let you know, if you don't like the texture that you did in class, or you don't like the brush that you did in class, or you don't like the overlay you did in class, you can go ahead and go home and do your own and redo them. So you don't have to have black paint. You can use markers. You can use black markers. You can use your do them yourself at home if you want to. So if you don't like what you did in class and you changed your mind, you can go ahead and make your own at home for the project. Okay. All right. Now, that's done. Basically, we're done with our overlay. So we can go ahead and close this one out. So we have this image. And now what I'm going to do is the last thing is I'm going to go ahead and create a custom brush. This is pretty fun. So here's how we create a custom brush. You can either make a brush out of this entire image. So you could make a brush out of this entire image here. What that'll do is it'll paint all of these together, or you can make separate brushes. So you can make more than one brush out of the same image. So if I zoom in, let me show you. So I can do like an entire brush out of this whole thing and stamp the entire thing down, or I can just make a couple of brushes out of some of these markings. So let me show you what that would do. Let me just do a few markings at this one. Okay, so what you're going to do first is go ahead and get your rectangular marquee tool again. Again, it's always the rectangular marquee tool. Get that rectangular marquee tool and find something that you want to paint or something you want to turn into a brush. So let's see, what am I going to do? Let's try, what would make a good brush? They're all pretty good, actually. I'm just trying to find something that would be fun. Okay, let's just say, I'm going to go ahead and just do multiple brushes then. I mean, multiple things out of this. You can do pretty much whatever you want, though. So I'm just going to select a portion, just select a portion. So I'm going to select a portion. This is going to turn into a brush. Actually, let me try something else. Let me try this section. This looks good. All right. So I'm going to select this section. Again, you're going to select whatever you want, whatever your brush is. It could be the entire thing. I'm just selecting a small portion, but you can select the entire image that you painted. So again, if I wanted to, I can take my marquee tool and select like this whole thing if I wanted to, see? So I could select the whole thing if I wanted to, make the whole thing a brush, or I could select a small portion. It's really up to you. All right, this is just an option. So I'm going to select this, Command-C. Now go Command-C to copy. You're going to copy it. Again, Command-C or Windows-C on your keyboard. Now go to File, New. Again, that's File, New. File, New, click OK, File, New, click OK, and now you're going to have the image here. It's going to be little, that's OK, and then paste it, Command-V. Command-V to paste, okay? So this is going to turn into a brush, Command-V. Now, before I turn it into a brush, here's what you have to do. Now, you notice the background, it's not pure white. The brush has to be black, pure black and pure white for it to really look good. So the background's a little bit bluish tinge. Here's how you fix that, ready? You're going to go to Image Adjustments again. Image Adjustments, Image Adjustments, and look for Threshold. So one more time, that's Image Adjustments Threshold, not Image Adjustments Black and White. Image Adjustments Black and White is for the texture. The reason you don't want this for this one is because Image Adjustments Black and White, I know it's kind of confusing because Image Adjustments Black and White turns something into black, white, and gray. So it grayscales things. Even though it's called black and white, it grayscales things. We don't want it to grayscale. We don't want a gray background. We want pure black and pure white. So for that, you have to use threshold. So one more time. Image, Adjustments, Threshold. Image, Adjustments, Threshold. When I click on that, look what happens. It turns into pure black and pure white. Now this little box will pop up. There's a little tiny arrow. Now pay attention very carefully. If you're zoning out right now, pay attention. You see the tiny little arrow that's underneath here? You have to click and drag on that. If you drag to the right, you get more of your image. If you drag to the left, you get less of it. See? It's really up to you how much of this you want. Okay, I'm going to get that part. There we go. Click OK. All right, now you notice the edges here. You see how the edges here, I have these, excuse me, zoom in. You notice these edges here, I have these, what would you call them, like these cut off blocks. I want to get rid of that because it's not going to look good. So I'm going to go ahead and just get a brush like this, like a hard round brush, or my eraser. You can do one or the other. In this case, I'm just going to paint white. So I'm just going to get rid of these around the edges here, because if they're cut off, so it's not going to look that good. Anything that's cut off around the edges, get rid of it, because it's not going to look good if it's cut off. There you go. The rest of it's not cut off, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Now, lastly, you notice how these edges here, they're kind of pixely. See, if I zoom in, if I zoom into this, they look kind of pixely, right? That's because of the threshold. Here's how you can fix that. Now, the last thing you're going to do is you're going to go to Select, Color Range. Select, Color Range. One more time. Select Color Range. Click on that. Opens up a box. Click on the black part. Click on the black part. You see how it pops up here in inverse. That's okay. And then click OK. Now you see I've selected all the black pixels. Here's what I'm going to do next to smooth out these lines now. I'm going to go to, let's see, Select, Refine Edge. Select, Refine Edge. So one more time. First way it is, I went to Select, I'm sorry. So first way it is, I went to Select Color Range and got the black color. Then I went to Select Refine Edge. There's Select Refine Edge. Now what I want to do is, right now it's all feathered. Let me reduce that. First, by default, bring everything down to 0. So first bring everything down to 0. Everything should be back at 0, 0, 0 to the far left. All of these lines should be to the far left. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and smooth this. You see where it says smooth? I'm going to go ahead and smooth out my edge a little bit. If you smooth it too much, it gets rid of some of those cool flare effects that I want to keep. So I'm going to smooth it a teeny tiny bit, like just by a couple of pixels. And then you see where it says contract, expand. I'm going to go ahead and, should I contract or expand it? Okay. I'm going to bring it up, but see if I go too far, it gets too pixely. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that a little bit down to maybe to there. So I'm bringing it towards the middle. Somewhere towards the middle should do it. There we go. You just play around with it until you get it to basically what you want. All right. Good. Typically, you don't want feathering. You can have feathering if you feel like it's going to look good like this, but ideally, I would not do feathering. Focus primarily on smoothness and mostly smoothness and contract, expand. Play around with those until it gets about right. When you're done, click OK. So again, when you're done, click OK. Okay, so after you smooth out your texture and you copy it, so again, that's Command-C, like or Windows-C on your keyboard to copy it. You're going to go to File, New. Again, File, New. Now this time, pay attention carefully. I'm now going to actually change this from, I'm going to change the resolution to 300, and instead of background content white, change it to transparent. So see where it says background contents? Instead of white, change this to transparent. Click OK now. You'll get this, you're going to paste this here. So you go Command-V, that's Command-V like Victor, or Window-V on your keyboard. So you're going to get these little transparent pixels, which look like this. Let me show you again. These little checkerboard pattern, that means it's transparent. That's good. That's what you want, okay? This is going to turn into our final brush. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit, Define Brush. Again, that's Edit, Define Brush. Edit, Define Brush preset. There you go. Click on that. Now you can name this one. I'm going to call it, I don't know, My Paint, whatever. My Paint. I'm going to click OK. And now I have a new brush. Now here's what I can do. I'm going to close out of these. Don't save, don't save. You can close out of them. Alright, I'm done, I'm done. Alright, close out of this one too. Alright, now here's the cool thing. I'm going to go back to this image. This is my original image, right? The one that had the overlay on top of the texture. I'm going to go create a new image. A new layer. So go down to your layers palette, make a new, your layers panel, make a new layer. Click right on top. Again, new layer button's right next to the trash can. New layer button next to the trash can. Now here I have a brand new layer. Now watch this. I'm going to get my brush. So get your brush selected, your brush tool, and now see where it says brush up here? You're going to find your brush here. Now first, before you paint with it, make sure mode is normal, make sure opacity is 100, make sure flow is 100 and all that. Click on this and scroll to the very bottom. And the bottom right corner, you're going to see your new brush there. Now once I get it, I can go ahead and make it bigger with the bracket. So again, the right bracket, which is like a square, it's like a square parentheses, makes it bigger, left bracket makes it smaller. Now by default, if I get a color, what's a bright color so you guys can see it? I can automatically paint with this. Look at that. Now I have my brush. This is what I just created. Isn't that cool? Okay, so that's one thing I can do. Now there's something else I can do though, that I can also I can spray paint it by using see up here in the options bar. There's the airbrush tool. And click on that, and that will help me. If I hold very gently, it'll paint it. There we go. Fun stuff, fun stuff. Okay, now that's one thing. But watch this. You see if I click and drag, you see how it kind of paints down in a line like this? That's not what I want, right? So what I need to do is I need to customize this brush further. So again, I need to customize this brush further. You could stamp it like this if you want to, but there's a better way to do it. Let me show you what that is. Okay. Go to your brushes panel. Again, your brushes panel. Remember, if I use the word panel, it means you go to the window button up here. I mean the window layer, window menu, sorry, the window menu up here. Click on window and look for brushes. So again, click on window and click on brushes. Window brushes, that's how you open up your brushes panel, which is right over here. Now, right now, you'll see that I have this particular brush selected, right, which is down here, the very bottom brush. Now, this shows me how it paints if I were to go on a line, this thing down here. I need to fix that. So we need to fix our shape dynamics first. So let's first click on shape dynamics, and I'm going to increase the jitter, angle jitter, increase the angle jitter and the size jitter and the diameter, just roundness jitter, just basically jitter everything, okay? Increase jitter, just increase it all, okay? Now, go to scattering. Here's a big one. Go to scattering, increase the scatter. I might have to reduce the count on this one because it's a little bit thick. So let me try to reduce the count, which is count right here. And reduce count jitter. Or you can jitter the count, it's up to you. Alright, so I'm going to scatter this now. There we go. I can add a texture to my brush. Here's a fun thing. I can add my texture. Guess what texture I can add? I can add a moss texture if I wanted to, because now I have a moss texture. I can also add a dual brush if I choose to. Dual brushes are tricky. Be careful working with dual brushes. You can do it. Just be forewarned. It's going to really change your brush a lot, which you may not want. So I'm going to turn dual brush off, but that's just an option. Now, color dynamics is a big one. Click on color dynamics. I wouldn't jitter the hue or the saturation or the brightness. I wouldn't really jitter anything except for foreground and background. You can if you want to. So if you want to jitter the hue a little bit, you can do that. So see what's this hue jitter? Don't have more than 5% unless you really want the color to change a lot, because the color is going to change really randomly if you jitter these things. And you may or may not want that. Because again, the more colors in something, the more childish it can end up looking. So be careful. So I'm not going to jitter it very high. I'm just going to jitter the hue very little bit. Foreground background jitter, you can foreground background jitter, which is up here, you can jitter as much as you want. That's not going to be a big issue. Let's see, other dynamics. There's flow jitter. This is a good one. Go to other dynamics. Flow jitter is kind of nice. Opacity jitter is kind of nice. Add a little bit of that. Not much, just a little bit. Don't do noise because it's going to make it look pixely. Wet edges, you could. I don't recommend it. Airbrush is nice. Smoothing is good. And protect texture is good. All that stuff's fine. All right, again, you're just playing around. You can do your brush however you want to. Okay, now that I'm done, if I go over to my panel now, I'm going to go ahead and use this. Make my brush bigger, a little bit bigger. Okay. Here's what I did. I went to color dynamics. I didn't realize when I reduced all these jitters, I forgot I accidentally reduced purity. That's what I did. Okay, so to see where it says purity, bring purity back to 100. That was my mistake. You see, it's under Color Dynamics Purity. So Color Dynamics Purity, bring that up to 100. Now it should work just fine. There we go. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so now it should work just fine. Now what I can do is I can go to my top layer and I can start painting now, and you see what it does? Now I've created this custom brush, which is pretty fun. Color Dynamics, I can jitter the foreground background color, which does this to it. So if I have, here's what that does. If I jitter the foreground background color, you see over here at the bottom of the color picker, I have a yellow and black. That's what it will jitter. If the back is, let's say, I don't know, like orange or something like that, then it'll jitter yellow and orange. See? Just like that. And this is how I can create a realistic looking abstract work. And again, I can do as many custom brushes as I want. So you have to use at least one, but you can use multiple custom brushes this way. I can go ahead and jitter the hue. So if I increase the hue jitter, it'll do something like this, which you may or may not want. I wouldn't recommend that. Again, hue jitter, keep that very, very low. So yeah, my bad. I didn't see purity when I was reducing the jitter. I accidentally reduced purity too, just without thinking. Just make sure purity is up at 100. That's why it was black and white. Texture, again, you could do texture if you wanted to maybe like do an overlay on top of it. Otherwise, you can leave it alone. But again, it's up to you. Let's say last thing. Last thing about this. Hold on a second. Color dynamics. Okay, so once I do this, I can add multiple colors. So I can go ahead and do, I don't know, I could do like blue on one, and then I could do, what's another good one? Green or something. There you go. And then I can just keep painting more, and so forth and so forth. So I keep overlaying this. Now, lastly, here's another thing you can do. So you see how, let me see. Whoops, undo. Okay. I actually kind of like the yellow. I'm going to do the yellow and orange. I liked how that looked. Okay. Now, here's the last thing. This is an option. Again, you don't have to do this, but you can also paint underneath your overlay. Again, your overlay is this thing, this color thing. Right now it's set to exclusion, which is why the colors look like that. But I can make a layer underneath it. So I'm underneath my overlay. Now watch what happens when I paint underneath my overlay. See how it blends in? Isn't that kind of cool? That's because now it's overlaying on top of these colors. So you see these colors underneath, right? So these are just many different options for how you can create this abstract work of art. So I can overlay underneath it, underneath my overlay, which will look like this. See? And I can overlay on top of it if I wanted to. So I can overlay on top of it, which will make the colors pure. And it's all up to you. And that's basically it. So again, you will need to use a filter also. So you'll have to use a filter. You'll have to have a filled selection somewhere in here. So you can fill a selection maybe like some shape underneath this if you wanted to. You're going to have to use a custom brush, a custom texture. You don't have to use your overlay, but you can if you want to. Or you can make another overlay. If you don't like the brushes you did outside during class, you can go ahead and make your own another different brush at home, or a different texture at home if you want to. And let's see. Oh, then you will have to use one of the filters as well. Okay. Now that's it for that part. When you're done, you're going to save it as a JPEG. You're going to go to File, Save As, and save it as a JPEG. Again, make sure it's Format, Photoshop, JPEG. And then you can upload it to Zazzle. Now the last thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create your name tag on top of this. Now once again, don't upload the version with your name to Zazzle because no one's going to buy your name. For Zazzle, just upload this version. This one right here. Woo! All right. For your for the version your second version that you're gonna use later, here's what you're gonna do, okay? You're gonna go ahead and get your text tool. So grab your text tool, which is right down here, T, horizontal type tool, and then just click once, anywhere on your canvas, click once. Don't make a text box. Again, don't click and drag, just click once. Click, and go ahead and type your name. All right. So move that in here. Now, if you want to change your font, well, here's what you would do. You'd click and click and highlight. So you click and drag, see? Click and drag across, so see now it's highlighted. Now you can hide your highlight, hide your selection by doing Command H to hide. That is Window H on your keyboard or Command H. Let's see. So again, commit is H for hide, Command H. Now the selection is still there, you just can't see it. So if I hit Command H again, it's there. Command H shows, Command H hides. Command H shows, Command H hides. Command H shows, Command H hides. All right. Then what I can do is I can click up here inside the text box. Just click once inside, not on this arrow. I repeat, not on the arrows, once inside. Click once inside, and now I can go up and down and find all sorts of different fonts that I like. All right, so I have to keep moving. Let's see what would be a good one. Let's just do. For this one, I'm gonna pick something kind of thin. You can do whatever font you want though. Whatever font you are going to like. Impact's too thick for me right now. Let's try, alright, whatever. I'll just pick this one, Gill Sans. You can change the color up here. Now it is optional, you don't have to, but you can also use a warp. Text warp is up here in the options bar for text, the little T with a line under it. You can click on that and you can warp the text, which will do like an arc on it or something like that, you see. Again, you don't have to, it is optional, but if you want to, you're more than welcome to. Completely up to you. Alright, I'll do one just so you can see, okay. Again, you don't have to. Alright, so now that I have this, here's what you're going to have to do. You need to turn this into a path, okay? So here's how you're going to do that. To turn something into a path, first go to Layer, Type. Again, we're going to turn, remember how in Photoshop, most things are made out of pixels, but there are other things called vectors or smart objects made out of paths, which is like the pen tool. So again, like the brush and the pencil tool makes pixels, and the pen tool makes paths, right? So we need to turn this into a path. So we're going to go to Layer, Type, Create Work Path. I repeat, Layer, Type, Create Work Path. We're turning our type, which is also another word for text, we're turning our type into a path. Click Create Work Path. Now you'll notice it gets a little outline. That outline is not permanent. So I repeat, this outline that it creates does not print. That just shows you the path. So it did not make an outline, it's just a path. That won't print. Okay. Now, here's what I have to do. I need to first create a new layer, because I need to actually fill my path on a separate layer. You can't fill, I repeat, a lot of you will have trouble with this, so pay attention. You can't fill on top of the text layer you're already on. If you're going to fill your path, you have to make a new layer for it. So I'm going to make a new layer by clicking a new layer with the new layer button next to the trash can. Then I'm going to open up my paths panel. So again, I say open up your paths panel. If I say panel, you know it must be under window, up here in the window menu. So click window, paths, window, paths. Here's my paths panel. Now what I can do is I can click on one of these. If these are not highlighted, I repeat, if they're not highlighted, it means you're not in a new layer yet. So if they don't work, it means you're not in a new layer. Get a new layer first and then they'll work. First thing I want to do is I want to fill this. So I'm going to pick a color. Let's go ahead and say I'm going to make this color, I don't know, pink or something. Will that show up? Maybe not. What will show against this? Let's try light green or something. Okay. Click OK. So I'm going to pick a color in my color picker. Pick a color in your color picker like this. And then click this first button in the paths panel, which is right here. It says fill path with foreground color. Click on that. And see, now I got this filled. Now here's my favorite part. This is what you have to do. You need to have a stroke outside of this path. Here's how you stroke a path, okay? See this second button right here? If you roll over, it says stroke path with brush. I repeat, stroke path with brush. What you can do there is you first get your brush tool. Click on your brush tool. Click on your brush tool. Now you can pick any brush you want to, or you can pick a custom brush that you made. So I can actually pick this custom brush that I made right over here, my fancy one, or another brush in Photoshop. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a custom brush for the stroke, but any brush you want. I'll just go ahead and do my custom brush because I already made it. Now, it might be too big. Right now it's really big. My brush is really big, so go ahead and shrink the brush. You want the brush to be pretty small. So have the brush be pretty small, and once you do that, you can go ahead and stroke. Click on the stroke button. And see what it does? It strokes your text. Wow, okay, that's a really big one. Right now my jittering is really high and my scattering is really high, as you can see here. So you can't read it. If you can't read the text, go back and fix it. So I repeat, if you can't read the text, go back and fix it. So to fix it, in my brushes panel, I need to change the scattering. The scattering is too high. I'm going to reduce the scattering, and I'm going to reduce some of the size jitter and angle jitter and all that kind of stuff. There we go. There we go. Alright, so it looks a little bit better. The more of a line it is, see, the more of a line it is down here in your brushes panel, the easier it's going to stroke. So I'm going to go Edit, Undo, try again, I'm going to stroke it again. Alright, perfect, that's what I wanted. So if I zoom in now, this is basically what I created. I created this text that has sort of a funky outline. Woohoo. Let me go ahead and try one more time. I'm going to bring my opacity back up. Again, I'm just playing around. You can play around however you want. I'm just giving you some ideas. Cool. Alright, bring that back up. Okay. See? So you can make this kind of cool looking text shapes. Now lastly, here's the last thing you can do. Let me show you one more trick, okay? Up here in the Paths panel, remember there's this other option which basically lets you load your path as a selection. It's the third button here. The third button loads path as a selection. When I click on that, you see how I get my running ants or my marquee? It makes a selection. The cool thing about that is I can get my brush. I'm going to go ahead and change my color dynamics a bit more. Alright, and what I can do with my brush now, which is kind of fun, is I can go ahead and start painting on the inside. So I can do like neat effects on the inside. So I can add orange on the inside if I wanted to. Alright, it won't affect the stroke outside, but it'll just affect certain areas on the inside. There you go. And that's the other option. So I can Command D when I'm done. Again, that's Command D or Window D to Select D to deselect. Select. There you go. And now if I get my Move tool, I can move this. Cool, and I have my neat furry looking text. Looks like it's like fungus, doesn't it? It's like mossy text. Okay. So when you're done with that, see in the Layers panel here, you can hide your original text, the one that has the actual T on it. You can hide that one. Don't delete, just hide it. And now I have my regular text like this, the one that I created customly. Alright. And there's my text. It's a little fuzzy, hard to read. Ideally you want to be better to read or easy to read, but this is fine. Okay? And that's basically all you have to do. So for this one, you're going to turn this one into a separate file. Do not flatten. I repeat, do not flatten your layers. Do not merge your layers. So don't merge down, don't flatten. I'll say it again. If you flatten it, you will ruin everything, okay? So don't flatten anything, okay? If you flatten it, you're going to get into a lot of trouble because you're not going to be able to do the project. And also, don't override your old file. You still want to have two separate files. So let me show you how to do that. First things first. After you get your text on here, you can also do a blending mode on your text if you want to. So I can do like, I don't know, overlay or something like that if you want it to blend in. It's up to you. Again, you can do whatever you want. So I can, I don't know what I like. Alright, good enough. Okay. Okay, so now that I'm done, I'm going to go to File, Save As. Again, File, Save As. File, Save As, and you're going to save it as a duplicate file. You can do this by putting number 2 at the end of it. Not the end of .psd, but before it. Or, here's the other option. Go to Image, let me see, there you go. Image duplicate. Image duplicate, image duplicate. If I do that, I can make a copy of it, click OK, and then I can go, see now I have 2 copies. One I don't want to have the text on it, and one I do want the text. So one I don't want text, one I do want text. Save them as JPEGs separately, okay? And again, save both Photoshop files separately as well. And that's it for that. Okay. So here's the final step. The final step is uploading your image to Zazzle. So again, you want to go to Zazzle.com and you want to have your artwork saved as a JPEG. One more time, you're uploading the artwork that does not have your name on it. The one that has your name on it, you're going to save for a later part of another project. This one, you're going to upload the version that has the abstract work. So to do that, you're going to click on where it says create. So first you have to register. Register for Zazzle by clicking on login up here. When you click on login, it'll ask you to register. Go ahead and register. After you log in, and after you register and log in, you're going to go to where it says create. See where it says Zazzle create. You can create any one of these items. Now, you can submit to me any item. Basically, I don't care what you want to make with it. Let's go ahead and try, what would be a good thing? Let's go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and create a messenger bag, okay? Click on messenger bag. You can create whatever you want. All right, so I'm going to click on that. There we go. Okay. Then you click on create a bag or create a whatever item. So once this loads, click on create a bag. Okay, so blank bag pops up. Now you see down here it says add images, add text. Add images, add text. This box pops up and it'll say get you started. So let's see. I'm going to first add an image. So see at the very top part says add an image, bottom part says add text. You can add text if you want to, but I'd prefer it if you didn't because it's nothing you're going to really be able to write on here. Just go to where it says select image. You see it says no image selected in this box. Right below where it says no image selected, click select image. When you click select image, this other box pops up. And it'll ask you where do you want to get your image from. You can click on my computer. So you click on my computer, and then you can find your image on your desktop. So see my computer and then select images to upload. So my computer, select images to upload, then you can upload it, okay? Once you upload one image, so once you upload that image one time, it'll forever be located under My Images. Click on My Images, it shows me the image that I uploaded in the past. That way you can add your same image to multiple items. So then you're going to click on that picture. After you upload it, after you go to My Computer, one more time, after you go to My Computer, select images to upload. After you upload it, when you're done, go to My Images, you'll find your image there. Click on it, click OK. Alright, so now you see it'll show you your artwork here. It'll also ask you, do you want to add some text? Don't add any text, just click Make It Now. Alright, so give it a second. Okay. So I clicked on my image that I created down here. Now look, see how it pops up on here? So now what I can do is I can drag, I should be able to edit this. Alright, good. So I'm going to click on this. There you go. Okay, so it shows my artwork. If I click on this, I just clicked on this, and then it pops up and it shows you the cutout of how this is going to be cut out in fabric and printed, right? So now I can click and drag this. Click and drag. Alright, and it should fill. So I click and drag around the edges to increase the size. Good. Alright. And now I'm done. See where it says design? After you're done, where it says design, next to it says the word product. Click product. Give it a second. There it is. Click on product. Now what I can see is I can actually see exactly how this is going to look. So here's my messenger bag. There's the back. Very cool. Okay, so let me see, go to design. Good. All right. Looks pretty good. All right, so let's just say I'm happy with this. So what I can do now is when I'm done with it, I can go ahead and screen capture it. Now I forget what the code is because right now the computers you have are computers that have PC keyboards, so I'm not quite sure how the screen capture process works. If somebody in the classroom knows, just ask a buddy to show you how to do it. Otherwise, here's a shortcut on the Macintosh computer. You can go to the top right corner where the magnifying glass is. Top right corner of the magnifying glass is. Type in the word grab, G-R-A-B. Type in the word grab and then click on grab. Once you click on grab from this list, you won't see anything open, You won't see grab open, but if you look over here in the top left corner, it says the word grab. That means you're ready to capture something. So you can click on capture, so you can go to capture selection. I repeat, capture selection. When I go to capture selection, I can click and drag. You see this red box? I can highlight an area of what I'm going to select right over here. And then it automatically copies this. See how I have this grab file right here that has my artwork in it with my product. Now what I can do is I can go Command-C to copy it, Command-C to copy, or Windows-C on your keyboard. Just copy it and then go to Photoshop, open up a new Photoshop file. The default size is fine, so if I click on Photoshop, I go to File, New, just click OK automatically. Actually, I'm sorry, don't click OK. Click Resolution 300 first. So everything else is fine. Width and height, leave alone. Don't change those, leave those alone. Resolution 300, click OK. And then paste it. There you go. Then that's your artwork you're going to actually submit to me to turn in. So you can go File, Save As, save it as a JPEG. File, save as a JPEG. Turn in at least 2 images of your product. So I would turn in like the back side. Maybe I would also turn in the like the front side. It's up to you which 2 sides. But turn in 2 images of your product as it looks, as your artwork looks on that product. And then that's it. And then you are done with this project.